And now, another edition of Tony Tolato on Sci-Fi Talk.
Hey, this is Katie Sackhoff.
And you do creepy really well, so
Why, thank you, Tony.
Kind of act to things that aren't there.
Well, sometimes you have that experience anyway with people that are there.
Thanks, God. I'm not that bad.
Who is your master, Padawan? Someone I killed, perhaps?
Wow. Hey, that's great.
My guy, the Archangel Gabriel, is in... Wow, that was early.
Hi, I'm Bryan Cranston on Sci-Fi Talk.
In part because of the hopeful nature of Gene's vision, but also because of its message of diversity and inclusion.
All right, today we have from A Captain's Log, a YouTube Star Trek show that I've enjoyed a few times here. I have Bryan Kreutz and also Lili Fox-Lim. Well, did I do it wrong, Bryan?
Yeah, it's Kreutz. That's
Kreutz. Okay. Oh, jeez. Oh, well.
At least you had Lily's name right?
Yes, I did get Lily's name right. So, guys, we'll talk about the logistics of doing this, but what led you to do this? What said, hey, let's do a Star Trek show?
Well, when I saw the kind of casting notice for a co-host of a Star Trek talk show, I was like, please let me book this. So I got out my uniform dress for the audition and just gave it everything. And luckily, Bryan and Ian and Dustin were on the same page and also thought that I would make a good co-host for the show.
So, okay, so you got a co-host there, Bryan. So what popped into your mind and said, hey, I want to do a Star Trek show?
Greatest co-host ever, by the way.
Yeah, she's great.
She is. She really is.
Thank you.
The need for a Star Trek talk show on broadcast TV. I know it sounds pretty simple, but there actually was no broadcast television Star Trek talk show. We had Will Wheaton's Ready Room,
right?
Which you have to have Paramount Plus. So I said,
that's
hey,
right.
there's this not even niche. I mean, so many people still have broadcast TV or even through their cable or satellite provider. Why not give them a free Star Trek talk show with 5 current Star Trek series running right now and all the old legacy Star Trek, right? There's so many different things to talk about with Star Trek and things that are new that are coming out with the new shows that need to be related and tied in with the previous Star Trek series. So Lili and I do Star Trek news and we do interviews with tons of Star Trek people that you probably don't hear from a lot because they're not necessarily the A-list or those that are in the opening credits. So yeah, that's why we do it.
You obviously don't have Paramount, CBS, Viacom money. So I guess you do a lot of this in front of a green screen kind of situation.
Yes, we do. We do shoot in a green screen studio in Lake Elsinore. And it's awesome. We also have an animated Android co-host, Raj, and we have a little banter with him on the show too.
As an older Trekker, I appreciate the reference to XO3 and Roger Corby, although things didn't turn out too well there, unfortunately, for Dr. Corby or for Nurse Chapel, for that matter, too, as a matter of fact. I did like the interview you did with, he played Mr. Beltine on Star Trek 6, and then I guess it was like almost 4 or 5 years later, he reprises the same role on Star Trek Voyager. That was interesting to get his perspective on all that gap and everything, and then coming back on the ship and everything looked the same. Who else have you gotten on just to kind of tease the fans so they know what's available?
We've had a lot of Klingon guests, and that was because Lili, our co-host, speaks Klingon, and it was really neat to be able to connect the dots, not only with our fans, but with a lot of our audience that watch, the show, because we had Mark Okrand on, the inventor of the largest fictional language in the world, the Klingon language. And Lili is well-versed in a lot of his research and his language. So we're like, hey, we've got this big audience that likes Klingons. Lili speaks Klingon, so let's bring on a bunch of Klingon guests. So in our first season, we had 3 people related to Klingon: Okrand, We had Robert O'Reilly from Next Generation who played Caloron, and then we had J.G. Hertzler who played Martok. It's pretty neat.
They're all so awesome. It makes sense that they're related to Klingons.
I've talked to them, and actually, Dr. Okrent I talked to years ago when he was still at the Museum of, I guess it was the Space Museum in Washington, D.C. He was working there at the time, so that was weird. In those days, I had to use a phone to do the interview, so that was really weird. And actually, I spoke to Michael Dorn as well. Man, we got on this whole tangent about Westerns. He really loves Westerns, which was pretty cool. So, and he talked about of course, the Western episode on Next Gen that they did. So I've been very lucky to the people I've spoken to that are no longer with us. Leonard Nimoy, Jimmy Doohan. I visited him at his hotel. And I'll tell you a little fact about Jimmy Doohan that people may not know. When he was in the Canadian Air Force during World War II, he was involved in D-Day. He had one of his fingers shot off. So he was always missing that finger. But Scotty has all his fingers. So what they would do is they would shoot him so that you'd never see, he would never raise his hands like that, but you'd always see him position his hands so you'd never notice the difference. So, I mean, when I met him and I saw that, it was like, oh, wow. And he told us a story. And fascinating stuff. He was a pilot during the World War II, and he actually landed on the Autobahn in Germany once. It was really funny. Wow. But he was a fascinating guy. So I've been very lucky, and I covered the first two. I covered the Next Generation press junkets in person for Star Trek First Contact, Insurrection, and Nemesis. I was there for all three of those. And so that was cool to meet everybody in person. I got to shake Tom Hardy's hand at Nemesis, which was really cool. And then I ended up talking to the director of the film. He had two pugs, and we were talking in the hallway about his dogs. It was really fun.
Oh.
It's great. So I've been very lucky, and I am working on stuff for Strange in the World right now. So check back, keep watching the space, as they say. I'm working on it, so we'll see what happens. But
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Tony, definitely. That deserves one of our forward live long and prosper.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you. It's always appreciated. I do have some tchotchkes. I've got this emblem paperweight. I have a couple of ships behind me, and I got this Borg cube that lights up too, which is really kind of cool. Here we go. Yeah, the Borg cube.
Yeah.
So I have a few Star Trek things, and then this is actually a pencil sharpener. See if I can get that where you can see the insignia. So I've got a few tchotchkes running around here,
Oh.
So, and I got pins too. My wife gave me the Star Trek Borg Advent calendar for Christmas last year. So every day I took things out of the Borg cube. It was really wild.
That's so cool.
When your wife's giving you presents for Star Trek, we know you're a true Trekkie.
Then you know.
Yes, I am. I've been a fan a long time. I used to watch. Definitely watched all of season 3 live on NBC. That's how old I am. But yeah, it was cool. Production wise, how long does it take for you guys to do this? I guess, Lily, you can start with you. What's it like for you to?
I know they start working on the scripts basically probably months before we even start shooting and getting all of the guests and themes lined up for the whole season, which I'm not a part of. I'm not on the writing team, but I know Bryan is also a writer on the show. He's doing everything. So I'm sure he can talk more about that. But for me, it's really just preparing the script like the week before we shoot. And then when we go, we just shoot in Lake Elsinore for however long it takes, a few hours usually. Yeah, I get to wear fun costumes, and I don't know, we've created our own little universe, which is like a side pocket of the Star Trek universe, on our own ship with a different captain, and Bryan's the ambassador, so we're safely carrying him across space.
Yeah, so Bryan, writing wise, how long does that take?
Well, Lily's being very modest with her answer. Let me tell you, she has like a long drive in from Pasadena, like in Los Angeles, to our studio in Lake Elsinore. So it's a longer day for her. Shooting the show, it's a longer day for her to and from the studio. But as far as writing, what we do is we have a writer in Indiana. We have writers out here in California, 3 of them. And then I'm also the executive producer and the head writer. We mix the scripts around. We try to take the strengths of these writers, and one of them's great at making our top 10 or top 5 episodes where there's no interview. And then we have our other writing team that's really good with Klingon, like Lex Zorn in Indiana. He's the one that came up with the idea to book Mark Ogren. And then we have a couple other writers that are good at just the standard interviews that we have with either guest stars or producers or directors. So we take all the strengths and we culminate that in kind of a writer's room ahead of time, coming up with ideas where we're spitballing. We'll put it to script. We'll have a couple revisions, and I will send Lily the script literally like 3 days, sometimes 4. I try to get it to her as soon as possible. That way she's familiar with it.
Yeah.
And she always knocks it out of the ballpark when she's delivering it. So we have a teleprompter where we read it off of, and sometimes we have some issues with that too, don't we, Lily?
Yes, definitely. Getting the speed right on that is a challenge each week.
So it's a good blooper reel there somewhere.
Yes.
We've got some good ones.
Do you save those?
We've had a few up on Instagram, I believe, haven't we, Lily?
I think
The
so.
blooper reel. Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
so
but we
good.
have a lot more in the can that we're going to bring out here eventually.
Well, so when you're booking people, I guess email or a friend of a friend or agents and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, it's interesting you say that. We've had a few connections with some people, and there's even some connections that are kind of built in where, eventually we may connect the dots. Like Lily did a Klingon Tamberlane, like Star Trek production where she has, had people visit her from the actual Star Trek universe. You kind of make those connections there. And we have a casting director, Anthony Moreno. He's awesome. We have another producer, Dustin Serrano, who's amazing with both of them kind of tag teaming the IMDb Pro, not to necessarily give like a corporate plug, but that website is amazing for finding like representation, whether it be manager or agent. And then we have another couple inside connections. We've got Dennis Matalone, who has opened the door for us to talk to several other producers with Next Generation. So it's like a whole culmination of a lot of different ways that we're able to book these interviews. But I'll tell you, our success rate is amazing. It's like above 90%. Like people are usually
wonderful.
To us. Yeah, they usually say yes.
Yeah, Dennis Matalone, for people who don't know, was the stunt coordinator on Next Gen and did a great job. He and Michael Dorn came up with Worf's fighting style. There's more sci-fi talk, so stay tuned. Here's more sci-fi talk with Tony Tolato. Let's talk Star Trek a little bit, since you guys are doing it, and I like it, and I have my own podcast as well. Star Trek Picard. Boy, I did not expect this season. At first, it was kind of like, time travel. Haven't they done that? Even with the Borg, it's like, and now the Queen going back with them and stuff. But I actually have been pleasantly surprised by this. And it's actually been pretty good. What are your feelings? We'll start with you, Lily, on Picard this particular season.
Yeah, I love everything that's coming out in Picard. I feel like when I first started watching it, I felt the same way. I was like, I've kind of seen this before. And the serialized thing, a little hesitant to get into it. And now I love them. And I think everything that they're, I guess, no spoilers, is everything that they're doing with the new seasons is really exciting. And it's cool to see the Star Trek universe expanding, even if it's not exactly what we love about Legacy Trek.
Mm-hmm.
100% agree with Lily. We're used to that Legacy Trek, right? And used to those episodes not being serialized. They're like self-contained typically. So it's kind of an adjustment. But yeah, I really love what Picard has done as far as like expanding the universe of kind of Next Generation and Picard himself. I love seeing Q and 7 of 9 in there and the relationships they have, and how they're now kind of connected. Obviously Jerry Ryan with 7 of 9 was on Voyager and Picard was on Next Generation. But it's cool, and it's cool seeing these characters as well. Allison Pill, I think, does a great job. A lot of the actors, that are involved with it as well, I think have kind of rounded that cast out really, really nicely. And it's shot here. It's the only Star Trek show shot here still in California, so it's kind of cool to keep it local.
Wow. Yeah, it is very cool. I didn't realize that. I know the other ones, I think, shoot in Montreal. But it's good to see that. It's really good to see that. I did like, how are they going to explain the older Q? And they did that right in the first episode. Oh, I'll catch up. And it was like, wow. And that de-aging technology, boy, it's gotten so good. It's amazing. Good. I mean, it looked like John of old. It was really, really wild. So, yeah.
That was really neat to see him more from, the John Delancey Q that we've seen. Lily and I have probably seen him 50 times watching the reruns on Next Generation.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of Voyager. And then to see him morph into like an older self. And that one-liner, Tony, is awesome, where he says, "Welcome to the road not taken." It's just like, it gives you chills. It gives you chills, right?
Yeah, that was great. Really good writing. Really good writing.
Yeah.
And talk about Brent Spiner chewing the scenery as the bad guy. I mean, that's got to be a lot of fun. He had to play Data for so long contained in that one little frame. And now he can really go a little crazy. So it was cool. That Soon family, though, man, they've got some bad apples in there, I'll tell you.
There's so many of them. They all look like Brent Spiner. That's what's awesome, but I love it. It's great to have Brent Spiner in there as well. I'm glad you brought that up too. Yeah.
Yeah, he's played the whole family.
He's the whole family.
Which is great. But it's fun. I mean, it's fun. Issa Briones is really good too. I really like her a lot.
Really good. Yeah.
She was great in season 1 and really has done a good job. What about Discovery? Very interesting storyline. To me, it kind of echoes the original series a lot. And it just really was interesting how they did it. And, and the whole storyline between Book and Burnham was fascinating. And actually, Burnham is a captain that wears her feelings on her sleeve a lot more than I've seen other captains do. So I appreciated that. What are your feelings on Discovery this season? We'll start with the ladies, of course.
I don't know if I've seen the latest season of Discovery, but it did take a while to get into it. But once I did get into it, I was like, I can't stop watching this. It's so good. And I feel like, I can't remember her name, Burnham, the actor is so like,
Sonequa.
She just draws you in. Like Sonequa Martin Green, yes. She's so good, and she just makes you want to know what's in her head when you look at her face. And I feel like that's just a gift for her, and it makes it more interesting for us to see. I think her character also changed a lot. You said she's wearing her emotions on her sleeve. I think it was the first season she was actually very stoic, and I thought that's an interesting character and a huge development for her over the seasons. So yeah, it's a good show. I enjoy it a lot.
Have you seen the latest season?
I have. I love Discovery, and I totally echo both of your thoughts here on Sonequa Martin Green as Captain Burnham. She started, first and foremost, Lily does the greatest Doug Jones' Saru dance, and she does it on our show, by the way. You'll have to check out that blooper reel.
Oh, I definitely will. That sounds fun.
A huge Discovery fan. But back to what we were talking about. It's as a Star Trek fan, it's refreshing to see a captain or someone in leadership that wears their emotions and is more human, and we can connect with them as fans. To where before, of course, we love William Shatner as Captain Kirk.
Oh yeah,
we love Patrick Stewart as Picard, and Avery Brooks, and Scott Bakula and Kate Mulgrew, but they were the dignified Star Trek captains, right? In that legacy of Star Trek. So it's refreshing to see something different and unique in Sonequa Martin Green going through those emotions with Book, as you alluded to, in that romance, but yet also disconnecting from her world in the earlier seasons when they were in the 23rd century, and now they're catapulted all the way to the 31st century. So they're kind of disconnected, but we see that emotion worn on the sleeve where there's a disconnect, and we feel. And we want to feel with her. And go along this journey. So it's fascinating. I love Discovery. I think they did a great job.
There's one thing I do want to talk about Discovery. And I thought they did an amazing job in season 2, especially when they went back to Talos 4. And it was just, that was an amazing episode. Even the woman they cast as Vina looked a lot like Susan Oliver, the late Susan Oliver. But it was really amazing how they did that. But that being said, what is cool is by jumping ahead, now you're not tied to canon anymore from the past. You can forge your own storylines. And as far as the technology, now you can go even more advanced because you're not tied to before Kirk's time. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, the stuff they're doing with with the panels in front of you and stuff and all of that is just amazing, and always good to see David Cronenberg in anything. So it was cool.
Yeah, I love that they can access all the new technology, and I don't know. I never really saw it as, I know that it's set before and kind of in the bounds of the original series, but it really never seemed like that to me. So it kind of seemed like they always had a little bit more technology, which is fine. And it just puts it in a different timeline maybe than the original series. But I think giving it its own freedom now to just do anything is going to be real, but it's exciting.
Yes, it is.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. What about you, Brian? About kind of a weight's been lifted off their shoulders a little bit.
Well, this is a testament to the Star Trek knowledge that Lili has. You know, I think all of us true Trekkies, like you, Tony, like you, Lili, and like myself, we like to tie things back to the original Star Trek, or to make sure that there is that continuity with technology, especially. And when we see Captain Pike's ship, and when we see the Discovery with, originally Michelle Yeoh's character on the Shinzo, and all these greater technologies, but yet set in the past, it's kind of hard for our minds to say, hey, this is supposed to be before Kirk. This is supposed to be before original series, when it seems like things were a little more simple and primitive. But just like Lili said, it's a different timeline, and it's a different kind of reality in its own way, and it's a different world. So we can justify it that way and say, okay, well, this ship, the Discovery is supposedly lost, right? Like the spore drive and all that, we're never going to see it, and it's not even going to be known, and
that's right.
Leave it abandoned. So they did that on purpose. That was a great setup to kind of explain, oh yeah, well, they have this great technology with the spore drive and all the buttons and bells and whistles, but Kirk and that era will never see it.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of cool.
And I like in season 2 that Pike and Spock said, look, we can never mention Discovery again. We're going to wipe it off our logs and not bring up, and Spock said, I won't bring up Michael anymore. And he didn't, if you look at Nimoy. But as far as continuity, I mean, actually, I remember when I covered season 2 and I asked Alex Kurtzman about that. It's like, look, people are paying for it, and we had the ability to do something more than paper mache caves and things like that. And they worked on the budget they had, and they have a little more money. They're shooting it with a cinematic lenses to really give it a movie feel that even some of the movies didn't have. So I appreciate that. And, it works. What helps me is the Enterprise we see in Star Trek, the motion picture, onto Star Trek 6, how modern that looks compared to the old one, because they got more money. So if you look at that way, the Discovery, and it's even Strange New Worlds coming up, I don't think it's that much of a reach if you look at those series, because I just watched Star Trek the motion picture, and it's like, oh well, yeah, next to Discovery, that doesn't look as bad. Isn't as advanced, but I can see the two kind of being in the same universe a little bit. So it's like, hey, it's basically TV show and movies, and they got more money. That's really the reason.
Yeah. And I also think, yes, on in Enterprise, which is one of my favorite of the series, it's set before the original series, but it does seem like the technology is a little bit more advanced sometimes. But that doesn't mean that I don't love the show, and I don't know, consider it part of the Star Trek world. So I think it's not a problem for Discovery or for us. And like you said, in the films, they also got a bigger budget to create more of those effects on the ship.
I will say the only season I really, really like of Enterprise is season 3. The last, or season 4, was it? Maybe
4, yeah.
It was 4. Yeah. When Manny Koto took over, I mean, the episode about the Forge, fantastic. When they went to Vulcan, I mean, that was just great. In a Mirror Darkly, that was fantastic too. So, he just pulled out all the stops, and I really like what they did. And unfortunately, they had just lost too much of the audience by then.
Yeah.
But do you guys find that because of streaming, all the shows are getting an audience? They're getting their due because you don't have to wait a week. You can binge on them, and there's like a whole new audience that's discovering, Star Trek from the beginning and not encumbered by network or syndication rules. What do you guys think of that?
I feel like that's really exciting because that means that younger people are going to become part of the fandom that we have. Unless they started with like Discovery, which they could, and Prodigy for kids, and Lower Decks with the animation and everything. Yeah. It's opening up a lot. I think the Star Trek fan being a certain type of person or whatever is no longer the case because of the breadth of content that they offer, and it's streaming.
What's not to agree with what Lili said? Absolutely, 100% agree. I mean, when you can gather more of an audience in a different way from the way that we used to watch on broadcast TV, waiting at 10:30 at night, on our local affiliate, or, and it was usually on late, because it's a syndicated show. It wasn't a network show.
That's
It
right.
was always wait late. So, yeah, if you can open up the audience to a whole new generation, no pun intended, with Prodigy and all these series, why not? Yes, Star Trek for everyone at all times. And that's the aim of Paramount, right? They want a Star Trek series running at all times. And now that they have 5 series, we're here to cover it, right?
Yeah. It's keeping us all very busy, but that's a good thing. Briefly, Strange New Worlds, I'm pretty excited about that. I really am. What do you guys? I mean, Anson's terrific. Ethan Peck, bang up job to Spock. He's not imitating anybody. He's just giving it his own interpretation, just like Zachary did. So, obviously Leonard's no longer with us. So you can't have an older Spock there anyway. But I really am looking forward to this. What do you feel, Lili, about Strange New Worlds?
Yeah, I'm very excited, especially seeing characters that we know sort of, but they're just going to kind of come back in a different parallel way. I think that I'm really excited about it. I know Bryan is too.
Yes, Lili, definitely excited about it too. Those characters, and to see them expounded upon in a way that's brand new Trek with the new technology, and knowing that we get to see them each week. And hey, this is the first series Paramount is promising is not serialized, right? They're saying it's self-contained episodes like the classic.
Yes, that's a good move. That's a really good move.
Very
I
good.
mean, yeah, Dr. Mbenga, who was in A Private Little War, the original series, is back, and a younger Uhura. That's cool. And then also a younger Nurse Chapel. So some cool stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. And hey, I'm on board. I want to see what they do. The Enterprise looks great. It's good to see it without any letters of the alphabet on it, to be honest. And so that's cool. As far as a captain's log, what is the best place for people that might not know where they can actually see it?
Well, if it's not airing on one of the local channels that's accessible to you, then I would say YouTube. And we have it's on Roku, which you can access through Amazon Prime. So you can also stream it if that's easier on like your TV or something.
Do you find that your audience is expanded more on YouTube, obviously, than well, maybe Roku too, for that matter?
Yeah, we're definitely living long and prospering, after the first season into the second season, right? On these different platforms. There's 3 different ways to watch us. What?
That's pretty cool. That was not always the case for something like this, let me tell you.
So our YouTube numbers are slowly growing, but our numbers on Roku and television are fantastic, right? And the largest markets that we're in on television are Portland, Oregon, and San Antonio, Texas. So it's not like these little small markets that we're in on TV. So yeah, the sky's the limit. We have a lot of great potential going forward with A Captain's Log. I love doing the show with Lili, each week, and I miss the times when it's the off season. It's like, oh, I want to get back on the set and have fun and have our laughs.
And talk about Star Trek for hours.
Can you tease who might be coming up?
Yes, the season finale for us that has not aired is the 7-time Emmy Award-winning special effects artist who also directed Birthright, the second part of the Next Generation Worf episode, Dan Curry. A special one episode of A Captain's Log coming up.
Oh, I've talked to Dan. He's fantastic. Well, he's gives away a lot of secrets that they did on the show, and I'm sure he shared that with you guys as well. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, I saw the original Batleth. He shared that with us. I won't spoil it.
Oh wow!
The original Batleth he created with his own hands, in his own hands. He showed it on the camera. I'm like,
oh boy, that's fantastic.
Mind blowing.
Yeah, it is. All right. So the series is called The Captain's Log. It's about Star Trek, and it's great to talk to you guys. Wish you the best of luck. And anybody that does anything related to Star Trek always gets my attention.
Thank you so much, Tony. It's been so fun to talk to you.
Same here, guys. Keep up the great work and have fun. Obviously you are, so I don't have to mention.
Yes. Live long and prosper.
Yeah. Peace and long life.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the proper, nobody knows that greeting. It's really wild, but yeah, you got to say peace and long life. All right. And thank you all for listening. Take care. And I'm Tony Tolato. Bye-bye.
This is John Billingsley. I play Dr. Phlox on Enterprise.
Hi, this is Stephen Culp from Star Trek Enterprise.
This is Ethan Phillips from Star Trek Voyager.
Hey, this is Chase Masterson.
Hi there. I'm James Doohan, author of Beam Me Up, Scotty.
Hi, I'm George Takei.
Hi, this is Rene Aubergenois. I play Shapeshifter Odo on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and you're listening to Sci-Fi Talk.